All right, get ready for this one. We're about to dive into a truly chilling story that comes to us from a subscriber. This all went down back in 1987, and it's about a family's 9-day nightmare in a house with a very dark, very violent secret. You know how you hope for a fresh start? Well, this is a story about how that hope can just curdle into an absolute fight for your life against something that makes no sense.
Okay, let's get right into it. That's the promise from the person who shared this, Sarthak. We've changed his name for privacy, by the way. And trust me, based on what happens next, it's a promise that gets delivered. Big time.
So our story kicks off with what's supposed to be a brand new chapter for the Majumdar family. They make what seems like a totally practical choice, looking for a fresh start. But it's a choice that would completely upend their lives.
So, let's set the scene. You've got the Majumdar family. The year is 1987. The father, Ramesh, gets a job transfer to Delhi. Now he's got his wife and 2 little boys to think about. One's 4 and the other is just 2. He finds this place, a single room on the first floor, and honestly, it seems perfect. The rent is cheap and, get this, his sister lives just 1 street away. I mean, that's a huge deal, right? A built-in support system. On paper, this was a no-brainer, a totally logical, sensible move. But here's the thing, there was a huge red flag right from the get-go. His own sister warned him. She said, "We've heard things about that room. Look for another one." But Ramesh, well, he was a very practical guy. He just brushed it off. I mean, cheap rent and family right next door, those were solid facts. Vague neighborhood gossip didn't stand a chance.
For the first few days, everything seemed fine. Deceptively normal, you could say. But the family was about to find out that those rumors, they weren't just rumors. The house was just starting to show its true colors.
It all started pretty subtly. It's the 5th day. Ramesh is out for work, leaving his wife at home with their 2 little kids. She's cooking near the doorway, and out of the corner of her eye she sees it, a clear shadow of a person walking past the curtain. So she immediately runs out into the hall to see who's there. But there's nobody. The only other room on their floor was locked. She tried to convince herself it was nothing, but that little seed of fear was definitely planted. Okay, so for this next part, you need a little bit of context. In Bengali culture, parents sometimes use the word how to kind of scare their kids into behaving, like the boogeyman. So for 4-year-old Sarthak, who grew up with these stories, how meant one thing and one thing only: ghost. So the very next day, the mom is downstairs doing something, and suddenly Sarthak, the 4-year-old, comes tearing down the stairs just completely terrified. He's screaming, "Mommy, the ha is with my brother!" Remember, ha is his word for ghost. Can you even imagine? Your kid says a ghost is with your other kid. Her blood just runs cold. She sprints back upstairs, and what she finds is chilling. Her 2-year-old is sitting on the bed, just staring at an empty spot in the room, and he's laughing like someone is right there playing a game with him. And this is where it really starts to ramp up. What started with a shadow and a child's terror is about to become a direct, physical threat. Whatever was in that room, it wasn't just watching anymore. One afternoon, Sarthak's mother is trying to get a nap in with her boys. Suddenly, she's jolted awake by this very distinct feeling. The feeling of her blanket being slowly tugged off of her. Creepy, right? Well, later that evening, she's making dinner and she hears it. A loud, sharp knock on the window. A window mounted high on the wall. She almost goes to open it and then it hits her. They're on the first floor. There's no balcony, no ledge, no way for anyone to be knocking. And right at that moment, a low, angry woman's voice growls from that exact spot.
And that voice wasn't just making sounds. It was making a threat. This wasn't some playful spirit. This was a direct, terrifying order. The message could not have been clearer. Get out, or you will die.
The very next day, it gets physical. While his mom is making breakfast, 4-year-old Sarthak is suddenly launched off the bed. He's screaming that the how pushed him. As his mother rushes over to grab him, that same invisible voice whispers right in her ear, repeating the threat. Absolutely terrified, she scoops up her son and runs for the door. But just as she gets to the top of the stairs, some unseen force shoves her hard from behind, sending both of them tumbling all the way down. And this is just heartbreaking, because when Ramesh gets home, he sees his son is hurt, and what does he do? He blames his wife. She's desperately trying to tell him, "We were attacked, something pushed us," but he just won't hear it. Nope. All he can think about is the advance rent they'd lose. He actually tells her they just have to tough it out. I mean, she is living through an absolute nightmare, and her husband, the one person who's supposed to have her back, just thinks she's being hysterical.
So here's the turning point. A skeptic can only stay a skeptic for so long, right? Ramesh had blown off his sister's warning and his wife's terror, but he was about to spend some time alone in that room, and his entire world was about to get flipped upside down.
So one night, his wife takes the kids over to his sister's place for dinner. Ramesh decides to stay behind. He's got a letter to write to his parents. He sits down at this little table the landlord left them, a table that happens to be placed right next to that window.
He starts writing, and then the knocking starts, just like his wife described. His first thought, it's got to be a thief. So, being the practical guy he is, he bangs his fist on the window and yells that he's home and he's calling the police. And just like that, the knocking stops. For a second, he probably felt pretty smart, thinking he'd scared someone off. But the silence that came after was so much worse. The air in the room suddenly felt thick, heavy, oppressive. And he got this chilling primal feeling that he was being watched, that someone was standing right outside that window, just staring at him. This wasn't about a thief anymore. This was something else.
And this is the moment everything changes. His skepticism just evaporates. He gets up, walks over to the window, and yanks back the curtain. And there she was, floating in midair. A young woman. Her hair was a mess, and her eyes were shining with just pure hatred. She looked right through him and said the exact same thing she told his wife. "Get out, or I will kill you all."
Well, in that one instant, Ramesh Majumdar became a believer. The family's nightmare in that room was finally over. But the story wasn't. Because now they were about to find out the tragic history that explained everything.
And that was it. That was the last straw. Ramesh bolted from that room and ran straight to his sister's house. The very next morning, they were packing. Their entire time in that home, their whole ordeal, lasted just 9 days.
You know, the landlords actually argued with them, even suggested Ramesh send his family away and stay behind for a bit. You could tell they were desperate to keep anyone in that room. But Ramesh was done. He told them to keep a whole month's rent, keep the deposit. He didn't care. The money meant nothing. They got their stuff and got out of there that day.
And it was only after they were long gone and safe that the neighbors finally told them the whole story. Turns out, the landlords had a 22-year-old daughter. She had fallen in love, but her parents refused to let her get married. In her despair, she took her own life in that exact room. Her parents, consumed by their anger and shame, never performed the proper last rites. In many cultures, that's crucial for helping a soul move on. Without it, her angry, heartbroken spirit was trapped right there, in the place of her greatest pain.
And that wasn't all. The neighbors also remembered another family that had rented the room. Their young son was flying a kite on the roof, and he fell. He died in the hospital, but before he passed, he kept insisting that someone had pushed him. The Majumdars weren't the first family to be tormented, but they were the lucky ones. They were the ones who got away.
So, the Majumdars survived their 9 days of pure terror. But man, their story is such a chilling reminder of why we're so fascinated by these accounts, isn't it? It just taps into that really deep fear. The idea that a place can soak up the pain of what happened there. And maybe, just maybe, the line between being a total skeptic and a true believer is way, way thinner than we like to think. It really makes you wonder, right? What secrets are the walls around you holding?